Hi everybody, welcome to Living Traditions Homestead. Well, our last video we shared some really exciting news with you guys that we bought a farm to be able to expand our homestead here.
One of the first things that we're doing at the new farm is setting up our new rabbitry. We're actually expanding the amount of rabbits that we keep. We've downsized a few years ago, but we feel that this is a good time to kind of bring our numbers back up a little bit and produce more rabbit meat for us and more breeding rabbits to be able to sell to those around us. Right now there's a lot of interest in raising rabbits. A lot of people are kind of feeling the effects of some of the meat shortages that are starting to happen, and we feel like this is a good time to re-educate everybody about the proper way to raise rabbits and the best way that we feel to raise rabbits for our homestead.
So today we're taking all of the rabbit tractors, the rest of our rabbits, over to our new farm.
We need to load up the last tractor that has some rabbits in it and one small cage that has our final buck in it, and we'll be ready to head out. Final rabbit.
Well, now that we have the rabbits unloaded from the truck and they're in a nice shady spot under a tree, Kevin and I actually need to install another double cage right here in order to hold the last breeder male that we're going to be putting in here for now. The expansion that we're going to be doing in the future with more does will be from the litters we have now. We'll be holding back a couple does. So we don't need all those cages right now, so we're just going to install one double set of cages to hold the males.
Before we get started actually setting the cages up, I wanted to show you guys kind of the setup that we have here. Now obviously we've already hung a lot of our cages here, but we still have some space for some more. So you see that what I've done is I've run some 2x4s here across the top of the wall here in the barn, and then underneath that I've run this heavy vinyl material. This is actually old billboard material that we can get, and this is really nice because it protects the wood of the barn from all of the urine and feces and everything else from the rabbits. If you can't get this kind of stuff, I would recommend either use tarps or something behind your cages so you protect the wood. Otherwise all that urine will soak in, and especially on the males, they will spray quite a bit, and so you want something that will really protect it. And then underneath here, you can't see, but I have actually a couple more 2x4s underneath here where the bottom of the cage will hit so that it will rest up against that. You can see that here. We don't actually attach the cage here at the bottom. We just attach at the top, and then at the front of the cage I run a piece of wire up to the rafters of the barn, and then that just makes it really nice and strong so that when the rabbits move around, the cage doesn't bounce around. It's a nice sturdy surface for them.
Once we get this set of cages installed, we want to talk with you a little bit about why we choose to use cages, wire cages like this, when we feel it's appropriate and when we don't use them, when we have the rabbits on the ground. We also will tell you what we're doing to make sure that the rabbits are not always on the wire. We've gotten quite a few questions and actually concerns about why we're raising rabbits this way. And we really feel that the method that we're using is very good. It's for the safety of the rabbits and the baby rabbits. So when we're done, we're going to talk about that and share with you our opinions and our methods.
Now for hanging cages, what I like to use is this plumbing hanger. Comes on a big roll. I use this stuff for so many things around the homestead. I always make sure I have a good amount of it around. Comes in a nice big roll. Roll lasts me, even with as much as I use it, probably a year. Awesome investment to have. So you just cut it into little pieces like this. And then we'll just screw that up onto the 2x4s. And then we'll be ready to hang the cages. Once we have the cage up here, I just fold the piece of wire hanger so that I can pull it through the cage and up and over. And then I fasten that side to the 2x4 as well. And that makes a nice secure way to hang the cages. That way there's no way that that can come off. And even though this is nice and sturdy the way it is right now, there's no way it's going to fall off. I do still like to add a piece of wire here at the front. So just take some old baling wire, whatever you got laying around. We'll run a piece from the front. Through the rafters of the barn. Pull it tight. And just wire it up there. And that adds just a little extra security and a little more stability to the cages. There we go. Perfect. May not be the most beautiful job, but it's going to add some extra stability. It's going to keep the rabbits safe. And I can tell you, the rabbits don't care if you use brand new wire or old wire that you had laying around. All right, these are all hung and ready for some rabbits to be moved in.
So we have their feeders hooked up and the waterers. The last thing that needs to go in there is a piece of board. We put a board in each one of the cages so that if the rabbits want to get up off the wire, they can lay down on the board. It also gives them something to chew on if they feel the need to do that, which rabbits quite often do. Okay, so we're ready to get this buck up in here. This is actually our youngest buck for breeding. He's a nice boy. There we go. And I'm actually going to move our older buck into this other cage because I know I'm going to be expanding the does this way, and that way I have the oldest buck here and the younger buck here. That's just what makes sense for me. Excuse me. You're okay. Okay. There. Now we just need to put some feed in there for them. The males get about a half a cup of feed a day. Rabbits will overeat really easily, and because these males, you know, they don't have babies, they're not pregnant, they're not burning a lot of calories each day. So about a half a cup to 1 cup of feed a day is plenty for them. They both have very good body condition. They're probably borderline a little too heavy, so half a cup of feed for them. Now that we have these guys settled, we actually have all of our breeders here at our new farm. We still have one rabbit tractor that we need to move into place. It has one of our litters of rabbits, so let's go move them into their permanent place, and then we can talk about how we feel about using the wire cages versus rabbit tractors and raising rabbits on the ground. Well, we have been raising rabbits for almost 10 years now. We've raised them both up in cages, in the wire cages. We've also raised them down on the ground in rabbit tractors. And we like both ways, and we use both ways. But we wanted to talk with you a little bit about when we use either kind and why we prefer wire cages for some time of year and the rabbit tractors for other times of the year.
So let's start by talking about the wire cages, because that seems to be the hottest topic right now. Is why are we taking the rabbits off the ground and putting them back into wire cages, you know, where they're up off the ground? Now, for us, it's a no-brainer. We've raised them now both ways. We've allowed the rabbits to breed and have babies in both situations.
Right.
And for us, it just makes a lot more sense for the rabbits to have their babies in the cages up off the ground for a lot of different reasons.
So primarily we're using the cages only during breeding season. So that will be a time in the spring and early summer, and then fall and early winter. In between those times, our rabbits will be on the ground in rabbit tractors. And once the babies are big enough to wean from their moms, which is at 5 weeks old, we'll put the rabbits, the babies, from the mom, we'll put them and raise them the rest of their lives until they either go to their new homes or go to the freezer. They'll be raised in the rabbit tractors and moved every day to fresh ground.
So why not just leave the moms to have their babies on the ground? We've done that in the past, and that's what a lot of you think we should be continuing to do. But after having done that now for one full season of breeding, we can tell you it is not the best way to do it, and we don't advocate it because of a few different reasons. The first being predators. Just this week, I killed 3 huge black snakes on our farm. All of which would have been big enough to eat baby rabbits, especially newborn baby rabbits, and all of which would have been able to fit easily into the rabbit tractors. So that is a huge problem and something that can easily wipe out an entire litter of rabbits in no time at all.
The second issue is weather. Your baby rabbits are very susceptible to the cold, to the heat as well, but also to being wet. This spring we had one litter that several of the babies ended up getting out of the nesting box. They were, 3 weeks old, so they were old enough to get in and out of the nesting box by themselves, but it had been raining a lot, and 3 of them got wet and too cold and ended up dying. So even if we have a lot of protection from the weather, there's an opportunity for the baby rabbits to get wet, cold, and die. Right. And in the heat, they're so much more susceptible to the heat than older rabbits because they rely only on their mom's milk for hydration. And rabbits nurse their babies only twice a day, unlike other animals and unlike humans. So those babies are relying on the milk for their hydration. They can get dehydrated and die very easily.
Right. Now, another thing that we've heard a lot after our last video was that it seems kind of cruel to have the rabbits in an area like we do in our barn where they can never be right out in the sun enjoying the sunshine. Well, the truth is rabbits don't really enjoy the sunshine, and if you think about the way that rabbits are in the wild, very rarely do you see a rabbit right out in the sun. Rabbits tend to normally come out in the evening. They like that time of day where there's filtered sun and it's a little bit cooler. And then they typically go back into their burrows underground overnight. They might come out again first thing in the morning when the sun still isn't up all the way, and they prefer that where it's nice and cool. But rabbits rarely will come out in the heat of the day, and in fact, rabbits are so susceptible to dying from the heat that heat is probably one of the biggest factors for losses of rabbits that we've had here on our farm.
So our current setup in the red barn with the cages up off the ground, it's actually the perfect environment for them to be in. There is a source of natural light, there's a ton of ventilation, and it keeps them clean and cool over the summer part.
Right. We've actually installed LED lights in there So if there is a day where it doesn't get very light outside because it's raining or whatever, we can turn lights on in there for them. And we've also installed a fan in there so that we can keep a nice breeze going through that barn all the time, which will keep them nice and cool.
The other issue that people were concerned about was the rabbits being on the wire cage bottom 100% of the time. Rabbits sometimes can get sore feet if they're on the wire bottom 100% of the time, and we understand that. And that's why we put that board inside their cages so they have an opportunity to get off of the wire if they are feeling uncomfortable.
We really do try to think about the welfare of our animals in any situation that we're raising them in. We try to give them what we feel is the best life, the best opportunity to be safe and protected, and that's why we've actually decided to move them out of the tractors and back up into the cages. We really do feel like for the breeders that is the safest, most secure place and the best environment for them to have their babies.
We still love the rabbit tractors and we're going to continue using them. We'll use them to grow out all of the baby rabbits, and then the breeders will go back onto the ground when it's not breeding season. The advantage to those rabbit tractors, obviously, it seems like a much more natural living environment for them, but it gives them the opportunity to eat a lot of this beautiful grass. They get a new place to live and new grass every single day. And when you're raising a lot of rabbits for meat, that cuts down the cost of the feed that you're buying to give to the rabbits. So we do absolutely love rabbit tractors and we're going to continue using them. So enough of this sit-down conversation. Let's actually get up. We want to talk with you about this really amazing area that these rabbits are going to be able to graze, and the spot that we've picked for them. We want to tell you a little bit about it. The grass out here is so perfect to have our rabbit tractors. This area here used to be the area that this family would grow their garden. It's a really beautiful area. There's 2 mature pecan trees here, and so the rabbits will just have the opportunity every day to move to a new beautiful spot with beautiful grass so that they can forage and just get as much natural vegetation as possible. When we first came looking at this property, we just were awestruck by this area and just how gorgeous it is, and perfect for some animal, some kind of animals that we could bring to the farm. We decided that those animals would be the rabbits. This would just be a perfect place for them. These guys are so happy here on the ground. We do absolutely love rabbit tractors because we love to see the rabbits just foraging and eating till their heart's content with all of this fresh grass. You know, we have a lot of baby bunnies on the way. Let's go back into the rabbit tree so we can see more of the babies we have in there and talk about those that are to come. I just want to review the 2 breeds that we're raising right now. The first is the silver fox rabbits, and they are just a gorgeous rabbit. We raise rabbits for meat, and the silver fox rabbits are also good for fur. They're a gorgeous rabbit. I want to show you why they're named silver fox. You can see on this male, he's black, but as he gets older, there's more and more silver hairs in his coat. You can see just how gorgeous that is. They're beautiful rabbits. Now the silver fox rabbits have many colors within the breed. Most of them are these black ones, but they also have blue, which is gray, lilac, which is a lighter gray, and chocolate. We have 2 breeding males right now and 3 breeding silver fox females. So let's come down this way and you can see some of the other colors that we have. So we have 2 black females or does and 1 blue female. And the blue female in her litter this spring has both blue and we think chocolate and one that is multicolored. We're calling it Tort right now, but I'm still working to find out exactly the name of the color pattern. Go ahead and look at how gorgeous these baby bunnies are. This one here is so cute. It's multicolored, chocolate and gray, or the blue. It's a little nervous. This one is a light brown. We think this one will end up being chocolate. So pretty. And this one here is blue like the mom. Stay in there, Mama. And then our daughter Samantha is raising New Zealand white meat rabbits. She has 3 of them, 2 does and a buck. We haven't had any of their babies yet on the homestead. They're young. But the good news is all of our female rabbits are currently pregnant. So we will be having a lot of baby rabbits coming up here pretty soon. That's very exciting for us. The New Zealand rabbits are probably the most common type of meat rabbit. It's actually the rabbit that's used for the commercial rabbit meat industry. This is the breed that we started with when we started almost 10 years ago. So we're very familiar with the New Zealand rabbits, and they are a wonderful rabbit. They grow very quickly. The moms are very maternal, and they generally have large size litters. So we're excited that Samantha is getting into this venture, and her rabbits will be available soon.
We hope this helps clarify some of the things, some of the questions that you guys have had for us recently about how we raise our rabbits, why we do certain things the way that we do, and whether or not we take the welfare of our rabbits into consideration, which obviously we do. We try to do that with all of the animals that we raise here on our farm.
We're also very excited that you guys were able to come along as we continue moving things from our homestead to the new farm. We're excited to be sharing that with you guys. Hey, if you're enjoying what you're seeing, make sure you hit the subscribe button below so that you're notified when we have new videos come out. And the best way that you can help us here on the homestead is to share our videos with all the people you know on your social media. Until next time, thank you so much for stopping by the homestead. Take care and God bless.
God bless.